everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and today I'm here to talk about my top books of the 2010s, so the top books of this past decade. Since it is the beginning of a new decade, I figured this would be a fun video to do, and everybody on BookTube seems to be doing it. So I figured I would jump on the bandwagon and do it myself. Now, throughout the 2010s, up until about 2015, I wasn't reading a ton. I just had no interest in reading for most of that time period, and up until 2015, late 2015, early 2016 is really when I got into reading. That's why I joined BookTube, and that's when my reading took off. So you guys are going to see some years, my favorite book of those years are going to be the same, and there's two instances where that is the case, but yeah. This is going to be really fun, so let me ramble on further. Let's jump right in and get started. So starting off in 2010, my favorite book of 2010 was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Obviously, this is the first book in the Harry Potter series. This was the year that I finally read Harry Potter for the very first time. I was in the 8th grade and I finally picked it up. I actually saw the Deathly Hallows Part 1 movie before I actually read the book series. And once I finally got to the later books, later on in the years, I had forgotten most of what happened in that first movie. So I wasn't really spoiled per se. But yeah, I read Sorcerer's Stone in 2010 because all my friends were reading it. The movie series was just wrapping up, so I wanted to jump on the bandwagon. This is my favorite series of all time. It has stayed that since I read this first book. I don't think it's ever going to change. In 2011, my favorite book was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by J.K. Rowling. This is the 6th book in the Harry Potter series. This is my favorite book in the series. That has been the case again since I first initially read it. It's still true to this day. I just love this book so much. It's definitely in my top favorite books of all time. It's really dark and it's definitely the turning point of the series. Obviously, it's the second book before the series completely concludes, and I think it was a great 6th installment, and again, still one of my favorite books to this very day. In 2012 as well as 2013, my favorite book was Blues for Nightmares by Laurie Ferris Stollard. So this actually could count as the entire series because I binge read this series in 2012 at the recommendation of one of my teachers in high school. I loved this series back in the day. I just unhauled my copies back in December, and it was honestly a very hard decision to unhaul those because I have a lot of memories attached to this series. It is a YA fantasy series taking place in Salem, Massachusetts. It's not too far from me. And it's witchy. It's more on the urban fantasy side. I would say if you like books that came out recently like The Wicked Deep or even Shadowhunters, I think you would really enjoy this series. I loved it. Again, I unhauled my copies because I don't think I'm ever going to read them again, but they will always have a special place in my heart. Next, in 2014 as well as 2015, my favorite book was Grey by Pete Wentz, which is my favorite book of all time. So 2014 is when I really got into the band Fall Out Boy, who Pete Wentz is the bassist and lyricist for. And after reading this book, I've explained this in so many videos before. I don't think I need to go into details here. I will go ahead and link my story that I did with this book up on the screen for you guys. But I read this just for like fun reading in class one day, again after getting into Fall Out Boy, and it changed my life. This is the reason I'm on BookTube to this very day. It carried over into 2015. It's still my favorite book, and yeah, nothing has changed. Next, in 2014 as well as 2015, my favorite book was Grey by Pete Wentz, which is my favorite book of all time. So 2014 is when I really got into the band Fall Out Boy, who Pete Wentz is the bassist and lyricist for. And after reading this book, I've explained this in so many videos before. I don't think I need to go into details here. I will go ahead and link my story that I did with this book up on the screen for you guys. But I read this just for like fun reading in class one day, again after getting into Fall Out Boy, and it changed my life. This is the reason I'm on BookTube to this very day. It carried over into 2015. It's still my favorite book, and yeah, nothing has changed. 2016, the year I started my channel, my favorite book was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, book 1 in the Throne of Glass series. This is a series, again, I binge read in the fall of 2016. I think I'd been on BookTube for like 6 months, and I couldn't put the series down. I was addicted, and I have since reread the books. I am finishing up the series currently, and I still love it. It's definitely in my top 5 favorite series of all time. It's just, I love it so much. This is a new adult fantasy series that follows our main character, Selena Sarathian, who is the most feared assassin in all the land. At the beginning of this first book, she is currently in prison for events that we find out about in the prequel novella collection that came out before this, and the only way she can win her freedom is by entering this competition to become the king's main assassin. And it's all about that. It's fun. I love this series. Yes, it has its issues. Yes, I know this is a very controversial series, but I still love it. 2017, my favorite book was A Quarter Wings and Run, also by Sarah J. Maas, book 3 in the Throne of Glass series. This is my second favorite series of all time after Harry Potter. I just love this series. I read this entire trilogy in 2017. I just am so obsessed with it. It could eventually pass Harry Potter as my number one favorite series of all time. Who knows? I just love it. This is another new adult fantasy series following our main character, Feyre, who in the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses, is a hunter. She's out hunting in the woods one day, thinks nothing of killing this wolf that she finds while hunting. She kills the wolf, and then later on that day, she is visited by a fae who says that the wolf that she killed was actually a fairy, and she has to go to the fairy court to pay for her crimes, and it takes off from there. Again, this is a very controversial series, but I know some people love it, some people hate it. I just love it with all my heart, and I will read anything Sarah J. Maas writes. Getting down to the end, in 2018, my favorite book was Misery by Stephen King. This is the year that I started reading Stephen King. He is now one of my favorite authors of all time. And I knew going in that this was going to be a very dark and messed up book. It was my first venture into horror, and I came out loving it. It did take me like 2 months to read. That's because I was in a reading slump, and that was like where my reading slump was worse when I was reading this book. But I love it. I have yet to see the movie, but I cannot wait to watch it eventually. This is an adult horror novel. If you guys do not know, it follows our main character, who is an author, and he is basically kidnapped and tortured by his number one fan after the release of his latest book in his very highly acclaimed series. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It's very dark, it's screwed up, but I love it. And finally, in the year 2019, my favorite book was The Kiss Quotient by Helen Wong. This is another one of my favorite books of all time. This one really surprised me. I knew I would like some aspects of it, but I did not expect it to be my number one favorite book of the year. And that's because I don't read contemporary / adult romance at all. It's just not my thing. I usually stick to fantasy and science fiction, dystopian, that kind of thing. But I wanted to give this a try because I had heard, number one, fantastic things about it, and number two, the main character is on the autism spectrum as well as me. I'm on the spectrum myself, and I was like, I want to know if this really lives up to life, if the representation is as good as people say it is. And that all stood true. I loved it so much. This is the first book in a series. There is companion novels out. There's one out currently. There's another one in the works. But I don't think you need to read this first book before reading those, but I highly recommend doing so. This is an adult romance about our main character, Stella, who is on the autism spectrum, and she has always had problems in like the bedroom department, so she hires a male escort to teach her the ways of sex and relationships. It's so cute. The rep is fantastic. I loved it so much, and again, this is one of my favorite books of all time. That is it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below what some of your favorite books of the decade were, as I would like to know. And as always, all my social media links are linked down below for you guys to check out if you'd like to follow me on any of those. And all being said, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.